Have you ever felt like a song stuck on repeat, playing the same chords, the same melody over and over again, never reaching a satisfying crescendo? That's how Ezekiel felt. At 78, life had become a predictable tune, a monotonous hum broken only by the creak of his rocking chair and the ticking of the grandfather clock in the hall. He lived alone in the rambling Victorian house he and his late wife Eleanor had filled with laughter and life. Now the silence echoed, each room a stark reminder of what was lost. Ezekiel had been a master clockmaker, his hands once nimble, crafting intricate timepieces, miniature universes ticking in perfect harmony. Those hands trembled, fumbling with tools, unable to recapture the precision that had defined him. His own internal clock, it seems, was winding down, each day a little slower, a little heavier. His days were mostly the same. Wake with the sun, a cup of strong black coffee, a solitary walk through the overgrown garden Eleanor had so lovingly tended. He'd try to read, but the words blurred, his thoughts drifting back to the past, to the vibrant woman who had been his anchor, his muse, his everything. Eleanor had been a painter, her canvases exploding with color, capturing the essence of life, the fleeting beauty of a sunrise, the quiet strength of a weathered tree. She saw the world in hues Ezekiel couldn't fathom. She felt emotions he struggled to express. They were two halves of a whole, a perfectly balanced mechanism, each complementing the other. But then, 5 years ago, the clock stopped. Eleanor was gone, taken by a swift and silent illness. The colors faded, the music died, and Ezekiel was left adrift in a sea of silence and grief. His children, Miriam and Jonah, visited when they could, their lives busy with families and careers. They encouraged him to move closer, to sell the old house, to start a new chapter. But Ezekiel couldn't. This house held her essence. Her spirit lingered in every corner. He couldn't abandon it, couldn't abandon her. One particularly dreary afternoon, as rain lashed against the windows and the wind howled like a mournful spirit, Ezekiel stumbled upon a box tucked away in the attic. It was filled with Eleanor's old art supplies, brushes worn smooth with use, tubes of paint dried and cracked, canvases stacked like forgotten memories. He picked up a brush, the familiar weight comforting in his trembling hand. He hadn't held one since she passed. A wave of grief washed over him, a tidal surge of longing and regret. He remembered her laughter as she mixed colors, the way her eyes sparkled with mischievous delight. Closing the box, he sat there for a long time, lost in thought. He had stopped creating, stopped living the day she died. He had become a ghost in his own home, a spectator in his own life. Days turned into weeks. Ezekiel stayed away from the attic. The box called to him, a siren song of forgotten passions. He knew he needed to do something to break the cycle, but the fear of failure, the fear of not measuring up to Eleanor's brilliance, paralyzed him. Then, one morning, he woke with a strange sense of clarity. The rain had stopped, the sun was shining, and the garden was bathed in a golden light. He went to the attic, retrieved the box, and carried it downstairs. He set up an old easel in the sunroom, a space where Eleanor had often painted. The scent of dried paint and turpentine filled the air, a familiar aroma that stirred something deep within him. He stared at the blank canvas, intimidated, overwhelmed. What could he possibly create that would be worthy of her memory? He dipped a brush into a tube of crimson paint, hesitated, then made a tentative stroke, a bold slash of color across the white expanse. It felt awkward, clumsy, nothing like the confident strokes Eleanor had made. He wanted to stop, to give up, but something held him back. He thought of her unwavering spirit, her belief in the power of art. He took a deep breath and continued. He painted for hours, lost in the process, oblivious to the passage of time. He didn't try to replicate her style, didn't try to create a masterpiece. He simply painted what he felt, the colors reflecting the landscape of his heart, the deep blues of sorrow, the vibrant yellows of memory, the muted grays of acceptance. The painting was not beautiful, not in the conventional sense. It was raw, emotional, an honest expression of his grief, his longing, his love. But it was his. He had created something new, something that had been dormant within him for years. He continued to paint every day, exploring different colors, different textures, different emotions. The house no longer felt empty. It felt alive again, filled with the echoes of his own creativity. One day, Miriam and Jonah came to visit. They were surprised to find the sunroom transformed, the easel covered with canvases, the air thick with the scent of paint. They looked at his paintings, their expressions a mixture of confusion and admiration. "Dad, what is all this?" Miriam asked, her voice filled with concern. "I'm painting," Ezekiel replied, a faint smile playing on his lips. "Trying to find my way back to life." They spent the afternoon looking at his paintings, asking questions, listening to his stories. They saw the pain, the joy, the resilience in his work. They realized that he wasn't just painting. He was healing. He was rediscovering himself. "These are amazing, Dad," Jonah said, his voice choked with emotion. "You should show them to someone." Ezekiel brushed off the suggestion.
He wasn't painting for anyone else. He was painting for himself.
But Miriam and Jonah persisted. They contacted a local gallery owner, a woman named Vivian, who was known for her discerning eye and her passion for art. Vivian came to the house, skeptical at first. She had seen countless amateur artists, their work derivative and uninspired. But as she looked at Ezekiel's paintings, she saw something different, something authentic, something powerful. "These are extraordinary," she said, her voice hushed with awe. "They're raw, visceral. They speak to the human condition." She offered him an exhibition, a chance to share his work with the world. Ezekiel hesitated. The thought of exposing his innermost feelings to strangers was terrifying. But then he thought of Eleanor, of her unwavering belief in him, of her encouragement to embrace life, to take risks. He agreed. The exhibition was a success. People were moved by his paintings, by their honesty, their vulnerability, their raw emotion. They saw their own struggles reflected in his work, their own grief, their own longing, their own capacity for hope. Ezekiel became a local celebrity, his story resonating with people of all ages, all backgrounds. He received letters from strangers thanking him for his courage, for his inspiration, for reminding them that it's never too late to find your passion, to find your voice, to find your way back to life. One evening after the exhibition had closed, Ezekiel was sitting in his rocking chair, looking at a photograph of Eleanor. He smiled. He had found his way back to her, not through grief, but through creation. He had honored her memory by embracing life, by embracing his own potential. He realized that life is not a song on repeat. It's a symphony, a complex and ever-changing composition. There are moments of sorrow, moments of joy, moments of quiet reflection. But it's the combination of these moments, the interplay of these emotions, that creates the music that gives life its meaning. We must embrace the discords as well as the harmonies. He understood then that the wrinkles on his face were not just signs of aging, they were maps of a life lived, a testament to the resilience of the human spirit. The gray in his hair was not a symbol of decay. It was a badge of honor, a reminder of the wisdom he had gained. The ticking of the grandfather clock no longer sounded monotonous. It sounded like a heartbeat, a rhythm of life, a reminder to cherish every moment, to savor every breath, to embrace the present. The song hadn't stopped. It simply changed its tune, and Ezekiel, the clockmaker who had thought his time was up, had finally found his crescendo. He had found it not in clocks, but in colors, in the messy, imperfect beauty of a life fully lived, a life embraced, even in the face of loss. He found that the greatest masterpiece is not a perfectly crafted clock, but a heart that continues to beat, a spirit that continues to soar, a life that continues to create until the very last stroke of the brush.